So talk a little bit, make a note of any questions that you have so that you can ask them to me at the end. And I'm going to start running through these slides. Okay, so for those of you that haven't been on either Start Your Own Business or the On Your Marks course, my name's Casita. My company's name is Positive Links. I do a lot of work with Visionnaires, who have organised this webinar for you guys today. And some of you would have met me as one of the facilitators that deliver the Start Your Own Business course, and as I mentioned, the On Your Marks course. So I'm going to talk about my own journey first of all. So this is my first investor, my mum. And I talked to her about this dream that I had of starting my own business. And she was like, you should definitely do it. And I think you'll make a success of it. At that time, I felt as though, who am I to say that I can start my own business, that I can run something, that I can generate an income to support myself? But it was something that I was really passionate about and wanted to give it a try. So I did. So my first investor, and this was my first purchase with a loan from my mum. She didn't give it to me as a gift. She says, I'm going to loan you this money to buy the equipment for you to start your business. And I know you'll be successful, and I know you'll pay it back to me. And, you know, at the time it was quite a big purchase, not a wealthy family. So I knew that this was a big thing for the amount of money for my parents to spare to help me to start my business. And then I had my first reality check. How easy is it? I had this great idea. I was going to become an educational consultant, write all these amazing programs that all these organizations would just be clambering over each other to buy for me. And then it would be a fail. I would be doing enjoyable work. I'd have lots of flexibility and free time because I was a business owner. So I'd choose the times that I work. That's not the reality. As some of you who are on this call now know, there's actually a lot of work, additional work. It's really, really hard work, especially at the beginning, to start off as an entrepreneur. You've got to put in extra time, not less time. That might come later on. So this is my idea. A lot of people think you get this idea, somebody gives you money, you build a business, overnight success. And that's what it may seem like to everybody that's not involved. The reality is that you work really hard. You might fail a lot. Life happens. You may feel insecure along the way. You may have to change direction. And the reality is more like the squiggly red line with lots of twists and turns before you get there. And for those that are not involved, it may seem like an overnight success to them. Okay, so I want to now start talking about the enemy within, and then this will lead on to me talking to you about imposter syndrome and building resilience, and why these two things are so important, building your confidence and building your resilience. So there's a quote at the bottom here, which I really love, by Marcus Garvey, and it says, with confidence, you have won before you started. So what is this enemy within? So when we lack confidence, we sabotage our goals and dreams. Sometimes unconsciously, we're not aware that this is what we're doing, but we sabotage our goals and dreams. We don't take bold actions because we're fearful of what could go wrong, to the extent that we don't want to take those risks. And then we don't realize our full potential. The other thing we do, we avoid risks. So anything that takes us out of our comfort zone, we don't do. So, and actually the whole idea of starting your own business involves risks. You may at some point need to go part-time in your main job. You may decide to leave to focus on your business. They are all risks. But when we lack confidence, we avoid taking risks. We don't stretch ourselves beyond our current comfort levels. That's another thing that we do. This is our enemy within. And we allow fear to take over. So that fear of what could go wrong would stop us from even progressing beyond it being an idea. And often when people join the course, they half expect that somebody's going to say to them, or I'm going to say to them, you're not really going to get very far with that idea of yours. And that's that fear of, I don't feel as though I belong here. I'm not going to have what it takes. It's too big. But small, manageable steps is what we all need to take in order to move along on this journey, which I want to talk a little bit more about in the next 20 minutes or so. So my first business, Positive Links, business I still run, Bridging the Gap. And why so many firsts? And somebody on this call, I think a few months ago on the course with me said, so I do a course like Start Your Own Business, or I do the On Your Marks course, get the information that I need, and then that's it. And it's never that's it. There's always first, you've got to continue to assess what you're offering. You've got to assess that it's relevant. You've got to continue doing research. It doesn't end, but it becomes part of what you do, as part of your journey, as part of your life as an entrepreneur. And so it's not something that you do and then you wait for that to finish and move on to someone else. It's continual. It's continual, and it's something that you get to the stage where it's part of what you do and you enjoy doing it. It's part and parcel of what comes with being an entrepreneur. So another quote that I've got at the bottom, these are all my favorite ones. I use some of these on the course. So you have no control over other people's tastes, so focus on staying true to your own. So it may be that what you offer isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea, but you find your niche and you focus on that. You focus on your niche market. You find what is your unique selling point, and you focus and put all of your energy behind that. Okay, so you're looking for progress, not perfection. So I've got some top 10 tips now for everybody who's either started their own business or on that journey, or who are thinking about it. But before I share those, there's another quote that I've got at the bottom here. Successful people have fear. Successful people have doubts. Successful people have worries. They just don't let them stop them. That is the key. They feel all of those things. You might think, well, look at that person. They've started their own business. They're doing really, really well. I'm nothing like them. But successful people will have those fears, doubts, and worries like we all have as human beings. But it's about not allowing them to stop them to feeling those things, but continuing anyway. So don't compare your one with somebody else's 10. I've just touched on that. Their journey may be completely different from you, but don't allow that comparison to make you feel as though you don't have what it takes to start your own business or grow your own business. Not everyone will like what you offer, as I've just mentioned. No, every win and every fail will mold and define. I actually think a lot of the ups and downs that I've experienced along my journey have actually made me better as a person and better as a professional, for sure, 100% there. So just know that every win and every fail will mold and define. Okay, so know you're special. There's hundreds of people. We did some research about 18 months ago, and we found that the majority of the people that we spoke to, probably 80% of the 100 or so people we spoke to, said that they would want to start their own business. They would want to. That's a dream. It's a goal. But many don't. So the fact that you're putting plans in place to do this, you've either started your business, you're either one of the people that are booked to go on one of the courses in the beginning of next year, that makes you special, because you are realizing that dream. It's not going to remain just an idea for you. You're actually trying to do something about it. So that makes you special. And it's something that we really commend you for. When things go wrong, as they will, know that you will recover. And I'll just pause here, because looking at that line there just reminds me of a situation. This happened maybe about 15 or so years ago. I was still quite early in terms of my business, and I had gone through an application process for some funding for a contract that was my dream contract. I'd prepared really, really well, and I was waiting in reception to be called in, and there were 3 women sat behind a desk, and they told me to start by going straight into my presentation, and I did my presentation. And as I started to prepare and started to talk, my voice got quieter and quieter. And I looked at them and I thought, they can just see right through me. I don't really belong here. I taught myself out that I'd prepared really well. But once I got there and I was in that room, I taught myself out of being there. talk myself out of the fact that I could have a contract on this, of this size, of this scale, that I would employ people, that I would roll out a program that would be London wide. And I talked myself out of it, and I didn't get that contract. I remember walking around at central London after the interview, just wanting to kick myself because I knew I could have done much better. And what I did is I was using language like maybe, and I could, not that I would, I will, and I can. I wasn't using that kind of language. And I recognized that what my lack of confidence didn't give those three women confidence that I could deliver. And that was a huge lesson for me. But know that you will recover. And it wasn't long after that that I had a contract that was larger than that I'd gained, and I knew that I could deliver, and I was able to deliver. But I learned a lot from that experience. I learned a lot from that. I need to recognize my own worth, my own skills and my own talents, and be able to talk about that with confidence, not blowing your own trumpet, that's something different, but with confidence that I can deliver, what you need. So I just wanted to pause on that because I think it's an important point to recognize that it doesn't mean that you need to throw the towel in, that it's all over, that you will recover. So the most important thing to do is to begin. You can have the best plans all written out, everything color coded, but in order to really build confidence, you've got to start. And that can be the hardest thing for people. They can do all of the planning, but the difficulty is starting. So confidence is built on accomplishments, and you won't have those accomplishments unless you begin. You've got to start. Monitor your progress, monitor it along the way, monitor it continually, monitor your fails and your successes, see what you can learn from them, what you can do differently next time, but all the way along, monitor your progress. Improve your self-talk. Your words create your emotions. Now, you know the example that I've just given you, that is how my words created my emotions, and they weren't great in that situation. I had my head down. I found it difficult to give eye contact. I was fidgeting a lot. I needed to improve my self-talk. And that's an important lesson for us all to have. One of the things that we do on the course is we get everybody to complete a pitch. So you will pitch your business idea so that you get into the habit of talking about it, focusing on keying in on the benefits of your product or service, because that's what people are interested in. Yeah, I've got this great business. They want to know what it is, and then straight away they want to focus on how does that help me? What problem do I have to solve? What are the benefits for me? So it's about improving your self-talk. And I think to also practice gratitude. I think sometimes we can be much harder on ourselves than other people are. And I think to practice gratitude for small wins along the way, to be grateful for those, I think. And I think it helps us all to be a little bit more balanced. I think that practice gratitude results in us being more balanced and doing the right thing. I think doing the right thing it may mean making decisions about what you will prioritize and what work you will do. Quite often, a lot of the people that come through the course, many of them, more than half, have got a social enterprise or a social impact to the work that they want to do. So it's not just about income generation. And I think that's important because those values, those things that are important, I think that they help you to go that extra mile when things get difficult. I think they're the things that push you to continue and keep going. I hope that makes sense, but if it doesn't, you can ask me some more about that after. The other thing I think is important is to be fearless. Failing isn't your enemy. Things going wrong as it did with me, failing isn't your enemy. It's fear in failure that really cripples you, because that can actually stop you from making any progress at all, because you fear that failure. It might happen, but it's about feeling those things and thinking. For me personally, I think about the worst case scenario. I normally write it down, let it shock me a little bit, and then think to myself, okay, so if that happened, what would I do? And often my worst case scenario, they don't happen. But I think facing them and thinking about them and talking it through with yourself or a friend is really helpful, because you know that fear in that failure can really cripple you. I've got another quote at the bottom here. When you have confidence, you can have a lot of fun. And when you have fun, you can do amazing things. Because once you acknowledge what could go wrong, you think, okay, what can I do to mitigate those issues? You mitigate as much as you can, but sometimes things do go wrong. But when you recognize that, you accept that, then that fear is not there. And when that fear is not there, you can actually start to think about, I want to enjoy this journey. I want to enjoy it along the way. Okay. So changing I can't, but I can do it. So this is one of my favorite quotes here at the bottom. You can have anything you want if you're willing to give up the belief you can't have it. And sometimes it's us that tell ourselves that we can't have it or we don't have what it takes, and then it stops us in our tracks. So it's that that self-belief that you can do it, and you may not have all of the skills and expertise, but then you find that in other people, in networks, in friends, you find that. And that's why networking can be so important, especially when you're starting off and it is just you and you're on your own, or a mentor, a critic, a companion, a buddy that can help you along the way. So push forward and keep going. So another quote at the bottom here: don't be distracted by criticism. Remember, the only taste of success some people have is when they take a bite out of yours. So it's that fear to one side, that doubt, critics, negativity, and just focus on, this is something that you want to try with confidence. This is something that I feel as though I can do, and I'm going to give it a try. And putting all those negative things to one side. So positivity is the fuel to your fire. So this follows on the quote at the bottom from the one that I've just mentioned. You have no control over other people's tastes, so focus on staying true to your own. So Maya Angelou. So positivity is the fuel to your fire. Surround yourself with positivity as much as you can. Read about it, watch it, listen to it, and imitate it. So positive, because there may be people that will feel as though it's more important for you to stay what I've heard people say, in your lane, and that actually starting your own business is not out of your lane. It's far too ambitious. But surround yourself with information that helps you to progress on your journey, even if it's not something that everybody around you agrees with. Surround yourself with positivity. Okay, read, watch it, listen to it, imitate it. Networks, joining groups, networks. I find that so useful. And even now when I go to events, which I don't do as often, but even now when I go to events, I meet people and I always leave them feeling inspired, having learned something new, being around people, hearing about their journeys. And you find at networking events, people are often really happy to talk about their own journeys, their ups and downs, and where they are now, what their plans and dreams are for the future. And it just can help to reinvigorate. So just before I go on to this slide here, I'm just going to check the chat really quickly because I was on another screen. Just before I go on to this, I'm just going to have a look. Lynette, we form a healthy attachment to things that don't serve us. That's a really interesting comment, Lynette, there. The to-do list is ongoing. I am my niche. People by people. That's a really interesting point, Lynette. I don't know if you're comfortable to unmute and just expand on that a little bit, because I agree with that so much. I'm just interested to know why you've said that. I am niche, people by people.
I'm going to talk in my own experience, because I know that when I'm interested in something, it's normally because I maybe have been referred to someone. I've actually seen something on someone. Let's say I saw them wearing something, and I said to them, where did you get that from? And they might say, oh, I bought it from my friend's shop or something like that. you know, and then, you know, automatically that's got like a face to it, hasn't it? Or
Yeah.
personality, or if I'm buying something online, you know, I kind of warm towards people that they're kind of, you know, they you see the person, don't you? And it could be a YouTube video and then they might be selling something at the end of it. But then because I've got to know the person or I followed them a lot, maybe that's always the case when I've got like a mentor or anything, because I've been following them and I've seen what they're about, and you know, you kind of get to know their lifestyle and what they're doing, and
Hmm.
you just buy into what they're doing, and that's how, yeah, I believe that's the way.
And people make decisions to stick, and they become loyal to a brand or a product or a service because they have built up a relationship or trust um in the person behind that. So yeah, I agree with that. There's some other great
Definitely.
comments in here. You have to convince yourself first before you convince others. Be also grateful for the setbacks because they help you to shape your character. I agree with that. Yeah. So I want to do a little bit of an exercise now, just for the next 10 minutes or so, and then I'm going to go over to you all if you have any questions. And I've got a questionnaire here, so it's just 8 or so questions. I want you to just make a note of where they are on a scale of 1 to 5. I want to show them to you. Those that have done On Your Marks, you will have seen this before. But I'm just going to share that now. Let me just minimize you guys so I can still see you. Yes, I can still see you. So I've got in red, if you answer often or always several of these statements, you may be experiencing imposter syndrome. However, if it's something that's really, really having a negative impact and you're experiencing distress or negative consequences as a result of these feelings, then you know you may need to speak to a professional that can help you work through those feelings. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8. So I just want you to have a look at those and just say, yeah, I always feel like that, or never, or you might be somewhere in between. So I'm just going to give you a few minutes to look through those and make a note on your responses to those questions. Okay. So, Chanel, when you say this resonates so well, are you comfortable to unmute and just explain? Are you looking at the list of questions? Is that what resonates?
Yes, the list of questions does resonate, and I've experienced just about everything on the list at some point. Some are a little bit lower on the list because I've really worked on them. Something that someone said to me is that we're all kind of just figuring this out. Even the people who look like they have it together are still trying to figure it out. So that gives me some comfort. But yeah, the whole list does resonate with me.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Jordan, you've got your hand up. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the main one for me was number 3. I convinced myself of that. I actually believed it was true. Something would happen, everything would fall into place. And it wasn't because of any skill that I had. It was literally chance. It just external factors all happened to coming together at the same time. And then I landed this and it worked all so well. And as I said earlier at the start of this call, I hadn't even recognized that there was a name for this, but I also recognized that it made it difficult for me to take chances and risks or put myself out there for something that I was capable of doing for fear of these things here. And so before I move on I put together something, and it is brand new, so it's not on the course. It's not part of the course. And it's something that I literally just put together in the last day or so. And it's called Measure. Okay. And Measure is it's ways in which you can combat these feelings, this imposter syndrome, the scale on this. So I'm going to go through those with you. Now, and it'd be really useful for me to have your feedback because this is brand new and I haven't shared this with anybody before. Okay, so let me minimize, let me go through these. So anybody else got any other comments on this quiz before I move on from it? Say now or forever, or do you please? Oh yeah, Jordan, please go ahead, just unmute. Are you able to unmute? Yeah. Can you unmute? Let me just check on here and see if there's any reason. So if you want to use the chat, there's nothing that should stop you from unmuting, but I'm not sure, but we can't hear you.
How about now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of like on the, not say opposite scale of things, but I kind of find myself thinking that my people would take my confidence as arrogance. So therefore, I find myself.
Do you scale back a little bit?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you shouldn't do, isn't it? You scale back, and because when you think about it, what you've said there is you're then scaling back to make other people feel better, not because that's not what you are capable of doing. And as I said earlier, Jordan, there's a big difference between just bragging, but then confidently saying, this is what I'm capable of delivering.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's our own thoughts that we're going to come across as bragging to other people. They're not thinking that. It's normally us telling ourselves that it's going to be that's how it's going to be received. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm trying to find a balance between that, to be fair.
I understand. Yeah. Yeah.
But it doesn't like present itself in the sense of like, I'm not somebody who doesn't go for an opportunity if I feel like I can.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely feel like in I guess like in the communication part, I'm trying to find a balance between being confident and not and I don't think necessarily I'm even necessarily ever guilty of bragging, but But then there is a sense of, you know what, I kind of feel like it's maybe easier for people to discover as opposed to me giving it to them, if that makes any sense.
It does. I do like that. I can really relate to that.
And that sometimes
sometimes though you don't get the opportunity, do you, for people to discover. Sometimes you may have that one time with that person, so sometimes you've got to let them know, because you may not have the opportunity for them to discover. Yeah. And I think that when you have got skills and talents, people are looking for their skills and talents, I think it's okay to say, I can do this and I can do it really, really well, especially when you've got past examples of doing this. Then you're not bragging. All you're doing is stating the facts. You're telling the truth. This is what I've done. And I think it's right that sometimes we can feel uncomfortable with doing that. But I think in a professional setting, like you're talking about, sometimes it's us that may feel, am I coming across as like I'm bragging about what I can do? And I think, yeah, there can be a balance. Do you find this is in situations with your work, or Jordan, you're going for a contract or piece of work, it wouldn't stop you, but you may hold back and hope that they see what you've got to offer?
It sounds like all of the above, to be fair, but definitely the most recent thing was like, you know, I'm quite often going to networking events, for example, and you know, there's always an opportunity to be had in going to a networking event, and sometimes I find myself kind of, you know, definitely I've left those events too many times thinking, like, is that person actually going to get the opportunity to see what I have to offer? And, you know, was there for me to kind of like, you know, get over feeling anxious about coming across incorrectly?
Yeah. And you know what? That's one of the things why we actually practice pitching and getting feedback on that from the group and others, because it's so important to do that. But the thing is, Jordan, networking events, you'll always get the opportunity to go to another one and try again.
Yeah.
And you know, you can always get feedback from people, especially if you've connected with somebody. So how did you just ask, I think. But I can't imagine that you'd come across that badly because of just how you're talking now. I can't imagine that you would. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. There's a couple of other things in the chat here. Confident achievers can still show humility and are all more impressive for it. I agree with that. I think it's quite a strong quality. Who said that? John. Yeah, John, do you want to just expand on that a little bit? I love that comment though.
Yeah, I find very often that the most impressive leaders are those that come across very humble. It's all to do with often style of leadership and the way in which you convey yourself in person. Sometimes a more inclusive and listening form of leadership, even if you're totally confident of what you're doing and very clear on where you're going. But if you can be a bit more sort of humble in the way in which you put that across to your colleagues, to your partners, to your employees, maybe, then that tends to carry the day more strongly, I find, than being, we sometimes refer to it as toxic leadership, but slightly sort of dictatorial sort of styles that some of you may have seen. Doesn't always get the best buy-in and frequently doesn't achieve as much. So anyway, long story short, that there are some brilliant examples of really quite humble people, you know, Bill Gates and people like that, you know, really quite humble people, but they're clearly very, very motivated, very driven, very successful for just being quietly confident and getting on with it and carrying people with them. That's me.
Thank you, John. Yeah, I definitely see that as a strength. Sometimes it can be mistaken as a bit of a weakness, but I think it's a strength and a very attractive quality. So good points about finding a balance between confidence and humility, waiting for questions in conversations I find help. Good points about finding a balance. It's all about that, finding the balance. So these are my what I found that I've put together, like I said to you, just in the last couple of days. So my measure when we're talking about imposter syndrome is to monitor, energize, acceptance, self-compassion, understanding, having realistic goals, empathy for yourself and others. So I'm just going to expand on those a little bit, and it'd be really great to have feedback from you on this, because as I said, this is brand new and fresh off the press, as they might say. So monitor negative thought patterns, to really monitor these. Is what I'm thinking, is it realistic? Is that really happening, or is it in my imagination? So it's really to monitor those negative thought patterns. Think about them, just don't allow them to take over, but monitor them. Okay. Energize, so you can boost your energy by recording your achievements. Think about, what have I done that's worked really, really well? I did that. So, and that can give you a real energy boost when you think about them and you record your. I know somebody that had a diary, and they would make a note of something positive that they'd done for someone else, or that they'd achieved, and at low points would just look back at that. So I think the recording of achievements is really good. And think about the effort and the skills that contributed to you achieving what you've achieved. So think about, so what effort did I have to put in? What skills did I use? Yeah, this is me. I did that. I achieved that. So it's just a reminder, because sometimes, especially at the low points, you can forget the good that you've done. You can forget your achievements. You can just, it's easy to focus on the negative sometimes. So acceptance. Accept that it's common to feel like this. The majority in this call that I've commented in the chat have felt some of those points on that question. Yes, accept it's common. Accept feedback and support. So get acknowledgement from people who know you, who can give you a realistic viewpoint to counteract that negativity. So accept feedback and accept support, I think, is important. Self-compassion. So resilience and balance, this is what it leads to. So I want to just focus on this slide for a little bit. So self-compassion doesn't mean ignoring areas for improvement or avoiding responsibility for your actions or anything like that. It's acknowledging mistakes and seeing them as opportunities for growth. That is a key. That acknowledging them, there are opportunities for growth. They can be a really powerful tool. So rather than focusing on feelings of inadequacy, I can't do this, self-compassion can really, it allows you to give yourself a bit of a break, really. So have that self-compassion. Whenever I show the imposter syndrome quiz as part of the On Your Marks course that I deliver, people will often talk about, oh no, you shouldn't say that, don't be so hard on yourself, to other people. All of the support comes rushing in, but then they find that difficult to apply that to themselves. And this is where the self-compassion comes in. Understanding and addressing. So it's really understanding what this is, what is going on here, understanding and addressing those feelings, so that they don't overwhelm you so much that you convince yourself that this is your reality. So understanding what it is, and then looking at ways to address it. So I also think it's important to be realistic, by just basically keeping it real. Setting yourself realistic goals. There's nothing worse than setting yourself a list of unachievable goals and then feeling awful because you have not achieved them when they were actually not achievable to begin with. So I think it's important to be realistic, and humility, which was mentioned earlier, comes into play here as well. So, and then that is the end of my slides, and we have got probably about 14 or 15 minutes or so left. I'll just go back to the chat here. Let me just go. I'm back to my, yep, we have gone through everything. So those of you that joined late, know that you will be getting a copy of these slides. Yeah, you'll be getting a copy of all of these slides. I'm going to just minimize these now and go for some questions. So you'll get a copy of this webinar, so you'll be able to see the slides. So I think I am going to stop sharing so that I can see all of you. Great. So let me just go back through the chat. I understand that always be open to receive as a leader, showing you're human. Self-compassion is a good one. Be kind to yourselves. Agree with that, Joe. What was the last E? The last E. I'm not sure what the last E was. Let me go back. I'm not sure. I think you might be talking about, the last E from measure. So let me go back to that slide of measure. Let me make that bigger for you guys to see. Empathy. So measure, monitor, energize, acceptance, self-compassion, understanding, realistic goals, and empathy. I actually thought I'd spelt it wrong somewhere. I had to go back and look at that. But the last E was empathy. Empathy for yourself and for others. Okay. Yeah, and I was talking about how many times I cover this and people are so supportive to one another. But I think that empathy is important. I'm going to stop sharing again, and I'm going to go back to the questions. Oh, you love my story at the beginning. Yeah, my mum was amazing, but it was that belief in me. Had she not had that belief in me and encouraged me, I don't think I was ever starting my own business. I would have just worked for other people and not realised that dream, because I didn't have anything at that time to go with other than an idea. Nothing else. I had nothing else. So that was important. Measure. Thank you. Focus on progress, not perfection. I love that. Emotionally intelligent. John, I don't know if you want to expand on that a little bit.
It was just another way of describing empathy. Sorry, it was when we were talking about the E.
Yes.
A lot of people talk about EQ, how people are emotionally intelligent, and it's generally to do with the way in which they relate to other people. And it comes back to that sort of leadership style, that humility, that openness to input, to challenge, still remaining strong, still remaining steelily focused on what you're trying to do and confident in your abilities, but open to input from others and bringing them with you. It's just another play on the empathy piece. I think it's really important.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions about anything at all? And you can post them. You can unmute and just ask me, put your hand up or unmute, and I'll also check in the chat. Absolutely, Lynette. Empathy involves you forming boundaries. How do you deal with the haters? How do I deal with the haters is I keep them as far away from me as possible. I create as much distance as possible. And sometimes I recognize that it's not me personally that the hate is directed. Sometimes it's about maybe what you believe, maybe your dreams and your passions. Maybe when you talk about your own dreams, passions, ambitions, that it triggers something in other people. And that's where you get what seems like hate. You trigger them, maybe in terms of your goals, dreams, and ambitions. Maybe it makes them recognize, actually, makes them look at themselves. Where am I at? I'm not happy with where I am at. And Jordan telling me about his plans has triggered me. So what you receiving as hate may actually be that they've been triggered by your own dreams. Sometimes that can happen. Keep laser focus on your aims, objectives, and outcomes, but be prepared to adapt to circumstances. Demand. So important. And resilience comes from adaptability. Actually, that flexibility, that squiggly red line that I showed at the beginning, that's twists and turns. But at any point that you can't bend with those things, you just stop. Progression stops. You stop. That journey, that dream for you stops there. Joe, I work in HR, and the only thing I add is authenticity. People can feel when you're being yourself. That's very true. be professional, but be you. Remember why you started. Put it on a post-it note and next to your laptop. Yeah. Yes. Great. Really important. Does anybody have any questions about anything here? Ocean, I don't know if we've got a link to the QR code or the link for the courses that could be put into the chat for anybody that might want to see that or use that. I don't know if you're able to access that and put it into the chat for me, please. Thank you. Any questions at all? You're all very quiet. I've been talking for the best part of an hour and a bit. I'm sure you've fed up over hearing my voice a bit now. Has anybody got any questions at all? Please feel free to ask or put them in the chat. Is it possible to be... it is possible to feel like that. And actually, the best way to answer that is to relay an experience. I was helping somebody prepare for a job interview, and she was going into this job interview with just the gratitude that she would have been internally grateful just for getting that job. But they also had a need that she was fulfilling. So it was two-way. She was giving something to them. And actually, without her focusing on that, the interview was going to feel very just, you've given me this opportunity that I don't deserve. But that gratitude, yes, somebody can, let me just go back to your question. Somebody can help you, but it's about having that balance. You're grateful for that. You say thank you for that. But if it gets to the point, Chanel, where it prevents you progressing, then it's not healthy. That relationship, that situation is not healthy. So it's examining why it makes you feel like that. It shouldn't make you feel like that and where that's coming from. Yeah. TJ, I hope everyone gets where they want to be in life and never stop following your dreams because life is short. You covered the questions you had in your presentation. Thank you. And the courses that are upcoming, Oceans, kindly put those into the chat. Lynette, I would say that confidence is a practice. The more you do something, the more... sorry, there's so many that they're moving. Lynette, I've put good and I've lost it in the more it becomes the norm. Does any of your training cover shares or getting support from a board? We do look at funding opportunities, a variety of different funding opportunities that's covered there. And we do cover a little bit in the finances day, because the course is 4 days. And the first day looks at your offer, your service or your product. It looks at that and really homing in on explaining it in a succinct way. What are the benefits, the why, and also why you're doing what you're doing. So that kind of takes up the first day. The second day, we look at marketing, including digital marketing, in quite a lot of detail. And then we look at finances, and we touch on all of those things there. Now, when you talk about getting support from a board, this is from Joe. Do you want to just expand on that a little bit?
Hi, Casita.
Hi.
What do I mean? I actually just thought about what I just wrote, and then I was like, I'm not sure if I am talking about a board or actually if what I meant was a mentor. So if you had somebody who, if you were starting your business and you have and you're somebody who you know that you work well off of bouncing off of others,
yeah,
or getting direction, or people who could add different kind of ideas or supports or direction to what you're doing. How do people go about creating that, and how does that happen?
I'm a real believer in mentors. I just think that they can be an amazing force for good. And as part of the course, Start Your Own Business and On Your Marks, we don't offer mentoring with that. We used to, and we hope to be able to do that again in the future. But there's an array of of avenues. There's 3 or 4 that you can look at to get mentors. Pop me an email and I'll send you over some information. Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
just pop over an email with that, and I'll cover it with you in a little bit more detail. Oh, thank all of you. Thanks for joining, Claire and others. In the chat, for those of you who may be interested, there are a couple of links to the courses, and there's our Instagram. I don't know if you can pop that in as well, Ocean. So if any of you are interested in following Visionnaires on Instagram, seeing the journeys of some of our Visionnaires and those that have started their businesses and are growing their businesses, and the pop-up shops that we have a few times a year, you can follow all of that on the Visionnaires Instagram, which Ocean will pop into the chat if it's not there already. So we've got a couple more minutes. Any last minute questions or comments or anything that you want to share? It's been really great. I talk about confidence all the time, but I think it's something that I've had to work at myself, and even doing something like this, there's always a little bit of nerves to begin with, but it's about feeling those things and continuing anyway, which I think we're all capable of doing. So thank you for giving up your Wednesday evening to join me. I'll just check the chat for any last minute messages. Oh, thank you. Oh, no, you're all very welcome. So thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks. Bye.